Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Eva. I make videos all about sustainable, low-waste living, veganism and minimalism, and this is the second episode in a series of mine where I tell you all about the books I've read for the past 3 months, give you reviews of them, and then give you my most recommended fiction and non-fiction books to read. So let's get straight into the second episode of my quarterly book review. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I read 10 books, a little less than last time I think. I have been a bit slow. I kind of took about a month off reading because lockdown just really got in my head. But I haven't got all the books because I did post some to friends and family they wanted to read during lockdown, so I don't have all of them, but I will start with the first one that I read in this quarter, and that is The Ragged Trousered Philanthropists by Robert Tressell. I love this book. It took me ages to get into it. It took me probably about 100 to 200 pages. It's about a 600 page book to actually get into the story, but once I got into it I really enjoyed this, and I think it's a classic for a reason, so I think it's definitely worth a read. It's very political, it's very, you know, you follow quite a lot of characters in here, which I really like. I don't like sticking to just one character. I quite like moving around a little bit and getting different perspectives, and yes, I really enjoyed this, so highly recommend. Next, I read this little Penguin Classics mini, which is Why I'm So Clever by Friedrich Nietzsche. Ugh, I'm gonna butcher loads of names. So this is essentially just a collection of excerpts from some of his writings, and these are actually excerpts from some of his later works, just before he kind of went completely crazy. And you can kind of read throughout the little book. It's only 50 pages. You can kind of feel him going a little bit mad, but it is really interesting, and I love reading these little books because they're really good if you wanted to read a bigger version, if you wanted to read the full book rather than just excerpts of it. So the next one I read was Richard Dawkins' The Extended Phenotype. Now I've read a couple of Richard Dawkins, and I think so far this is my favourite. I absolutely love this book. It's quite big and heavy and thick, but it's definitely worth it. I love the examples he uses in here. He talks about bees and snails and wasps. In here it just explains how smart they are, and I was completely astonished at the level of intelligence these species have, and it just completely blew me away. And ever since, whenever I see a bee or a wasp or a snail, I'm like, mate, you should be at uni. I really enjoyed this, so that definitely had a 5 stars on Goodreads. The next book I read was a Fitzgerald, This Side of Paradise. I've read a few Fitzgeralds. This one was okay, definitely not my favourite. I really like A Diamond as Big as the Ritz. That's my favourite Fitzgerald novel, even though it's only a short story, but it is really good, so go read it. But it was alright, kind of, you know, middle upper class, problems, love, romance, all that kind of stuff. And I think this was the first book he wrote that kind of got started off his career. Yeah, this was pretty good also, just not his finest work in my opinion. So the next book I read I don't have here, and it's called Almost Human by Alfred Fidjestol, I don't know. And it's all about Julius, the chimpanzee, who was, it's a true story, who was born in a zoo in Sweden, and his mother rejected him when he was born, and he was raised by humans, and then they tried to integrate him back into the chimpanzee community. And it's all about sort of captive chimpanzees that have been raised with humans, or, you know, this battle between the human world and the chimp world, and it's really interesting, and I did really enjoy that. It only came out last year, although I managed to pick it up at a book exchange at my local train station before lockdown happened, which was quite nice. So after that, I read Stephen Hawking's A Brief History of Time. I've been meaning to read this for so long, but I was really concerned that I wouldn't be able to understand it. But actually I found it quite, I understood it because I had to learn about a lot of the concepts, and I already knew a lot about kind of Hawking radiation and stuff like that. And a lot about black holes, because I just think black holes are bloody fascinating. So I really enjoyed this, although I would recommend, if you know nothing about physics, to learn a little bit about physics first, or as you're reading just do some research on your own and teach yourself. But I did really enjoy it, and I think I'm going to read another one of his books soon, probably just on black holes, because like I said, I'm really interested. But I did really enjoy this book, and you can see why it's a bestseller. So the next book I read is also not here. It is with someone else. You should share your books. Books are meant to be shared, they're meant to be read, they're not meant to sit on a dusty bookshelf forever. We share all of our books. Anyway, and it is The New Rulers of the World by John Pilger? I don't know. Either way, like I said, I butcher names. I loved this book. So it talks about the United States and the Iraq War. It talks about Australia and its kind of war with the Aborigines, and it talks about the United Kingdom as well, and us arming militant groups in other nations, leading to the death of lots of civilians and children and all sorts of awful things. Honestly, it was absolutely heart-wrenching. So definitely go read it. I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads. I really enjoyed it. It's so eye-opening, and it's just completely mind-blowing, the fact that people get away with this stuff, and the people that get away with this stuff and the people that are doing this stuff are the people that are running our countries, which is even more concerning. Either way, let's move away from the politics a little bit. The next book I read was something a lot more lighthearted. I needed something lighthearted, and it is Montevino Vivo. This is a new book, and I actually got this. It's signed. I got this from my grandparents for my birthday. I think the guy who wrote this came round to their house and was selling books kind of last year or something like that. But it has beautiful illustrations in it. There we go. So it's essentially about, you have almost like conscious human-like animals living in the wild, and then you have unconscious non-human-like animals. They have the same bodies, and they live and they dance and they party and they have, you know, all sorts of things. It's really interesting. I really liked it. It was a really nice sort of light-hearted read, and it's based around nature and around animals and stuff, and it just made me feel very like, oh, I really like it. Go check it out. It's on my Goodreads. So the next one I read is very famous at the moment. Everyone's reading it, and it's Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by Eddo-Lodge. This was incredible. I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads as well. I've just been, you know, throwing 5 stars out there recently. It was incredible. I absolutely loved it. I did not know much about the history of racism in the UK. You know, over the last, let's say, 100 years. Obviously I know about the slave trade and all things. She talks about the history, white supremacy, the system, feminism. It's just really interesting, and I think it definitely could have been a bigger book. I think there's so many, and my boyfriend said the same. He's just read this as well, and we're gonna send it off to our family soon so that they can all read it. And I think we both agree that it's only like a 250-page book, and there's so much in it that she could have expanded on, that I would love her to write a single book about each of the topics she mentions in there and go into really big detail. So each big chapter, there's about 5 big chapters. Just write a whole book about it, please. If she ever watches this video, please write a whole book about it. I want to read it. I think it'll be incredible. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. My boyfriend really enjoyed it. He gave it 4 stars on Goodreads. I gave it 5. He's a lot harsher with his, you know, reviews than I am, so 4 stars is good from him. And the final book I read is actually on my Kindle. I don't read on my Kindle that often, but I've started to. Yeah. So I read Queenie by Candice Carty-Williams. I loved Queenie so much. I read it, I couldn't put it down. It was, I take my book to bed to help me sleep, and it was so good that I couldn't put my book down and go to sleep. It kept me up, and I just absolutely loved it. And it's true when they say it's like a Black Bridget Jones. It is. It's like, she has boy problems, she goes through a breakup, she has problems at work, mental health issues, and then of course her race and, you know, systemic racism comes into it, her experiences with men, it comes into that, it comes into everything. It's really interesting how she explains it, her relationships with her friends, her family are Jamaican, they're part of the Windrush generation, and it's just really interesting, and I absolutely loved it. So this takes me on to my most recommended fiction and non-fiction of this quarter, and that the fiction is Queenie. Read it. Please read it. It's incredible. I absolutely loved it. And of course it got 5 stars from me. I give everything a 5 stars. I just feel bad if I don't. Either way. And then my most recommended non-fiction I don't have here is New Rulers of the World. I love that book. It really opened my eyes. I can't really say I loved it because it was absolutely heartbreaking and it made me cry lots. But I think things like that you need to read to understand more about the world you live in and your role in it and how you can help shape the world to be a better place. And yeah. So now I'm just going to tell you about the books that I'm reading. I'm not going to tell you much about them because I'm still reading them. So during the day, I'm reading The Uninhabitable Earth, a story about the future by David Wallace Wells. I'm really excited about this book. I wanted it for ages, wanted to read it for ages. I'm really enjoying it. In fact, I can't put it down as well, but I have already cried. And then at night, I am reading The Courage to be Disliked by Ikaro Kishirame and Phenotype Koga. I don't know. I'm really sorry. I don't want to butcher anyone's name and I don't want to disrespect anyone. I'll try and learn how to say those names. But I will leave all the books I read and all the books I'm currently reading down below, and I'll leave my Goodreads down below. But yeah, I am really enjoying it and I did really enjoy all of these. And I hope to read much more books in the next quarter because I've been a bit lazy, if I'm honest. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Comment down below any books you recommend for me to read, or if you've read any of these and what you thought of them, etc, etc. Oh, and drop your Goodreads down below so we can be friends. And subscribe if you aren't already, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.